And we are live with another episode of the X-Men 97 Aftershow. It's that show brought to you by The Keeg, where we talk about the new animated series, X-Men 97, which is a sequel series of the X-Men animated series that was in the 90s. And we are here in 2024 to talk about essentially these storylines continuing. It is episode 7. Bright Eyes,
yes.
That we are here to talk about. There's only 3 episodes left, and we're here to talk about Bright Eyes, which is the final episode before the 3-part finale. I'm your host, Dimithri Perera, and if you're watching us live on twitch.tv/The Keeg Show or youtube.com/The Keeg Show, you could see who our amazing guest is. We haven't had her on the show since Loki Season 2, so if anyone remembers our podcast on Loki Season 2, you would remember Mariah Carley. Mariah, how's it going?
Hi. Good. How are you? It's been a while.
It's been a good minute. Was it last year? Was Loki Season 2 last year?
It sounds about right.
That's crazy.
I've been off air. This is the only podcast I've done since last year, so I'm so happy to see your face again.
Yeah, I was gonna sign you to like a really exclusive contract with the Keeg and all our, our affiliate podcasts.
Yes.
But now I don't have to. If you're anyways just doing Keeg stuff, then
I
don't even need to bother, with the
legality. This is my only podcast that I will do. When I make it big, I will come back every time.
Thank you. It'll be like a running thing how like Paul Rudd, I think when he goes on Conan O'Brien, they always have this like banter and then he plays the same clip over. So it'll be like that,
Yes.
When you come back to this.
Yes, as long as we talk about X-Men, I will come back every time.
You're a big X-Men fan.
I am a huge X-Men fan. Ignore the back. I know it's only Star Wars.
Look, we're allowed to be more than one type of fan. That's
yes. Okay. But if they made just as much merch for X-Men as they did Star Wars, my room would be exploded with X-Men stuff. But X-Men was my first fandom that I was into.
Yeah. X-Men is still my number one fandom. Now, there are other fandoms get really close. And then there's other fandoms that I'm a part of out of obligation. And it's, would you be willing to say what fandom you are a fan of out of obligation?
Well, if you put all of Marvel into one.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say out of obligation.
Let me clarify what I mean. So,
okay, go ahead.
So, when it comes to Marvel, I love my X-Men the most. The absolute best. And like Spider-Man is great, so I guess Spider-Man is up there, but still not X-Men. But like most of Marvel is at the bottom of like what I dig. I read everything, I watch everything, sure, but for me it's like X-Men's number one. Most of DC comics, not DC movies, but DC comics are like a close second, but X-Men's still number one. And then the rest of Marvel is below that. And I really just read it because I like the characters and everything, but I like Marvel, so I'm reading it, but those aren't my favorite things. The Avengers are not my favorite superhero team. By far.
I could see that. I have to agree. I did not like the Avengers until they started making the movies. I didn't like the comics. I did not like the animated show. I could not stand the animated show.
I like the animated show. I'll be honest, but
I did not. I like the X-Men and I like the Justice League.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
X-Men and Justice League are like my 2 top teams.
Those are the best animated series. But besides that, I guess out of obligation, I would have to put Spider-Man up there because I was just not a Spider-Man fan. Yeah. So out of obligation, because I am a big Marvel fan, because Marvel movies hold like dear to my heart because that was my parents were into that. They were not into Star Wars. I didn't find Star Wars until like later in life. Mm-hmm. And so when I say later in life, I mean like about college.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I like Star Wars also.
Right. But when it came to like Marvel and like X-Men, like my grandmother is a X-Men fan.
Oh, really?
Yes, I have a young grandmother.
Oh, okay.
So she had my mom when she was like really young. Like she was a child. So, and she actually has a Nightcrawler tattoo.
What?
Yes, like she's like
Is your
when
mom
it's
Mystique? Because I feel like this is kind of giving me Mystique.
you know no I won't well
Your
yeah
grandma. Is your grandma Mystique, should I say? Did
yeah
I say
right
mom? I meant grandma. Is
yeah
your grandma Mystique? Timeless, you know? I don't know.
I mean, she's very interesting character. She is, you know what? She fits the reason why my grandmother is an X-Men fan because I was very lucky to have a grandmother who was part of the
Mm,
LGBTQ plus community. So that's something that held dear to her for that
yeah.
reason. But now that I live in the South. We're from the South, so I like everyone says I sound like Rogue with
Right.
my accent. So might as well my grandmother can be Mystique. Actually, she might not like that because she probably doesn't like
I
Mystique.
mean, that's fair,
But
you know.
but but yeah, she has a Nightcrawler tattoo.
Yeah, that's cool.
Mhm.
Is your favorite character Rogue? Because I know you do a lot of Rogue cosplay and you love Rogue. And right now, you're literally, for anyone out there who's listening to the podcast, you can't see what Mariah's wearing, but I feel like it's Rogue all day, every day for you.
I mean, whenever you live in the South and you sound like her, you just have to be her.
Yeah.
You are her. But this is a signed autograph from Lenora Zahn.
Ooh,
So
yeah.
Zan Zahn. So I met
Nice.
her. So that's a Rogue one. So I have to say, yes, she has. As a kid, I I didn't like her. I know it's not that I didn't like her. I was kind of like teased in school because they were like people would make fun of me saying like I sound like Rogue, and I was like I don't sound country. I don't sound like that. But yeah, I do. I
I
was
mean,
like I don't talk like that. That's not how I talk. So
I love Rogue, and I've been really liking her. That the fact that they're spotlighting her in this
mhm,
cartoon, um, which is like, sure, everybody had a moment to shine in the original, the
right
'90s show. There was 5 seasons, but I feel like there's a certain type of spotlight, you know.
for her.
Um, have you been happy with the way Rogue has been treated in this series?
I am. I really feel like she's really getting the spotlight in this season. I love that so much, and you get to see this whole new side of her. And I will have to take a jab at the live action. It's some justice that was she really needed
Yeah,
because it she really needed to tell that story. We got it in the comics and everything, and we got her personality in the previous seasons, but we didn't really get her story. And man, this has I've been on an emotional roller coaster with Rogue.
yeah,
With this, like just I just want to take a moment to like just the writers and then the voice acting
yeah.
of the series, like Lenore's on, like if she can win an Emmy and Oscar for this performance, because I've never cried so much in a series before, and it's solely because of her acting.
There is something about this season where I feel like there are stakes, and it's
Mhm.
weird because like, I mean, okay, we're on episode 7, Bright Eyes. Like the couple
Right.
episodes ago was Remember It, and the idea
5.
that like
Yeah.
I never thought that Gambit would die. I never thought that, at the time, Magneto would die. I never thought that there would be a all-around genocide of mutants. And the fact that this animation is doing that and made me feel all that,
Right.
how does that happen?
Well, I mean, we knew it was going to happen. Like we know the story because it is in the comics, but just to see it play out, it's really hard to
Yeah.
see. Like I never imagined it to this level. And listen, my video has went viral for my reaction to Gambit because I love Gambit.
Yeah.
I do. Like I've that a crush on him. I manifested like this is so funny because I feel like I meant manifest this with my own fiance
Mm,
because he kind of looks like Gambit, but
okay.
his name is Eric. So it's like Magneto's name is yeah, I know.
Okay. All right.
I I feel like I manifested this. But anyways, like Gambit, seeing him, you don't get to see him use his powers in the like to this level in the first season. So when you got to see that, I do think he went out like a boss and everything like that. But back to Rogue's story, just seeing her emotions that she went through, and then we get to see that played out here in this season. I mean, this episode 7, where she just completely goes on a rampage because we forget she has Captain Marvel's powers.
Yeah.
She's strong, like she's one of the strongest. Like they say that Captain Marvel is the strongest Avenger, so like how can you say that when Rogue literally stole her powers?
Right.
So if you're going to say that Captain Marvel is the strongest Avenger, then I would have to argue and say that Rogue is.
Right.
But that's a little that's that's give and take to everyone's opinion, but Marvel is pushing like Captain Marvel being the strongest one. So I just seeing her go out there and just her being a complete, can I cuss? I don't know if this
You
is
can say
cuss.
whatever the fuck you want, Mariah.
I was just gonna say she's a badass in this.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not bad.
You just have this string of expletives, and it's like, oh damn, what did I get? Why did I okay this?
Right.
Mariah, you're never allowed back on the show ever again.
I know. I'm sorry. I have to watch my mouth. I have to talk like a Southern lady. We don't cuss now, do we? No, I cuss like a sailor. I gotta watch myself.
Yeah. I love seeing. I mean, there's a lot that happens in this episode alone. There's so many storylines in this Bright Eyes episode, but like Rogue lets loose, right? I mean,
she goes rogue.
That's literally, I think, with all the she goes rogue. Actually, we're laughing at this pun, but like almost like that's the point, right? Like Rogue has always had that nickname, and it's like she's rogue because she was like an orphan, right? Like, but this is her letting loose and going rogue, which is a completely different scenario.
She's always reserved. She's always trying to keep it in with her gloves. She's always trying to mask it. And then finally, she literally takes off the gloves and she kills people and uses her powers. Like, because she was a villain in the sense first. She was a villain. Well, I don't really want to call her a villain, but her mom was a villain. She was raised by a villain. Yeah. And not controlling her powers, taking other people's powers in their life and everything. So now she's going to use that to take revenge on, she just lost the two most important men in her entire life.
Right. You say two most important men, and she was very close to Magneto and very close to Gambit, but at the end, what sucks about in Remember It is like she realizes that she loves Gambit, right? She wants to spend the rest of her life with Gambit. We're assuming. I don't want to put words in her mouth, but like she chose Gambit over Magneto, and Gambit never gets to hear that or know that when he dies, but he gives his life up, right? He gives it up anyway. And you know what that shows me is like
you're making me cry again.
That's a real man right there, Because there are so many people, like, I'm sure, that are online that are like, no, if a girl turned me down, why would I go back and, like, save her? And it's like, yeah, well, that's the difference. You're not a hero.
To be honest, that's very true of him because he is a Southern gentleman. He's Cajun. He's from Louisiana. Yeah. And those are some very, if they're from New Orleans, they may not be as respectful. There's some players. They're the little players, but they love their women and they are very gentlemanlike. So that is very true to that hospitality that he has. But the fact that he was willing to still be friends with her, that also tells you like how much of a gentleman he is, and he was willing to, like, how much he loved her, that he was willing to say, okay, we can just be friends,
right,
until then. But he was gonna wait. I think he was gonna wait for her. He would have waited.
I think unconditional love is exactly that, right? It's love throughout any condition. But we see her let loose. And then also in the end of this episode, I just want to point out that, like, she did say he took the man that I love. Like, she didn't say the men that I loved. She says the man, right? Like,
Right.
when she gets so angry at the end of this, and we'll get to it, but like, she's talking about Gambit.
Right.
She's talking about all the mutants that died in it, plus Gambit. She didn't say he took Gambit, he took Magneto, and all the other mutants. It's like, there's Gambit,
Right.
and then there's everybody else.
Right. And that's Nightcrawler did point that out to her. It's like, you didn't just lose one, you lost both. And then that's when she was like, yeah, you're right. Like, maybe it wasn't that big of a secret. Like, brother knows best.
I love Rogue and Nightcrawler being brother and sister and acting like brother and sister, because they're not really, you know what I mean? Like, they are, people say they are, but like, they didn't grow up together. They just share this mystique connection.
Which that's enough for like to find like a familiar bond and stuff like that. Which Rogue is adopted, but that is Rogue's adopted mother, but that's Nightcrawler's biological mother.
Yeah.
So in that sense, like, it's just like he is trying to find his family, and then she is like that's part of the family. To me, it's just family. So I feel like if I found out that I had a brother that's been missing for like 20 years of my life, I would do whatever I could to make up those lost times. So we don't know what happened in that year.
Yeah.
Well, actually we found out in like season, was it 4? So let's just say like 2 to 3 years there that we don't know like what they went through, like off the scene. So
there's so many different character moments. Since we know, and we're gonna keep coming back to Rogue, because Rogue is the through line throughout this whole thing, right? This episode starts off with Gambit's funeral. It is so sad. Rogue isn't there, and they do talk about that. But were you tearing up for Gambit's funeral?
Yeah, I recorded myself crying.
Yeah.
I could not make it through. I wasn't ready for it. That was very sweet. What, once again, Nightcrawler put on this obituary that they were going through. Yeah, I was crying like a baby. I never cried so much in an animated show, and I'm tired of crying. I'm tired of this show making me cry.
That my mom used to say, because when I was a kid, and even now, like, I cry in movies and TV shows and whatnot, right? I cry. Right. And my mom, she didn't shame me for that. She said that that's how you know they did a good job. Making the movie, making the TV, like, that's their purpose, right? Is to make you, if you're crying, then you're connecting with this story. And I mean, that's the greatest compliment to a storyteller, right? It's that they moved you. And they did a great job with that. You know?
They did. And then we see Gambit's past life and then his family with the X-Men. I really thought that was a great nod to that too. And I feel like Jubilee, like you would hear her crying, and that's when we got that little nod from where Wolverine, who knows most about grief and everything like that, is like, I know what she's going through. Like, she has to figure this out on her own. Yeah. And that's when it cuts off, and that's when we see her go crazy.
If anyone's gone on a rampage, I mean, Wolverine kind of.
Right.
You know?
He's like, let her deal with it. She'll come back. She's fine. Like, she's not doing anything I wouldn't do.
Right. Because Jubilee is very upset at Rogue for it. Because it is like a family. The whole family's at the funeral and one person's not there, and it's upsetting. But everybody grieves in their own ways. It is cool that the Assassin's Guild is there, right? From Remy's past life. And they bring that up in the eulogy that Nightcrawler says. They that he, came from a different past. That's also what I like about this X-Men show, is that they're able to bring in any character they want, essentially. Like, that's just what they're doing. Whoever they want. Like, Can you imagine if like Sony had the rights to the Assassin's Guild and they're like, you can't have the Assassin's Guild because Sony's gonna do an Assassin's Guild movie over there,
Right.
So this cartoon can't have it, and it's like, well, okay.
No, I just like because obviously we saw them in. Because I've been doing a whole rewatch of the old season, and we did see him and LaBelle. Is that her name?
Belladonna, I think. Belladonna.
Okay, Belladonna, yeah. And his ex-wife.
Yeah.
And got to see that play out in that episode, which is really funny because Rogue and her do fight and that, and he's like, "Get away from my man!" Like, look at you. Rogue goes in there. You would go find another woman. I'd leave you alone for a couple hours, and you were already found yourself another woman. And he's like, "No, she kidnapped me."
Remy does get into some sticky situations with the ladies, especially in the comics. There's a point where Mystique tries to seduce him, and I forget what happens, but Oh
yeah, that plays out in the season 2.
Yeah, well, is that the one where she pretends to be Rogue and says, "Come to my room," and he goes to the room? Yeah.
Yes.
I remember that. Yeah.
That's. But it's when there's a lot of shocking factors in this. They all include Rogue in this one. So this is all Rogue episode.
Yeah.
But it's like, so we see her fly into the military base?
Yeah, the base they said, and that's General Ross. General Ross, the antagonist to Bruce Banner and the Hulk. He says that the base is built to withstand the Hulk, and she's not the Hulk.
No.
But she is. She ripped the top off. She got in.
Yeah, she really did. Which I thought that was like, obviously we see Agent Ross throughout the Avengers and everything, and they're coming out with the new Captain America movie, which the actor had passed, and now Harrison Ford's going to play him.
Yeah.
And they're already hinting out the Red Hawk. So I just thought that was also a nice nod to make him like call out not only Bruce Banter's, but we're also the rumors about Red Hawk coming too. So
yeah. And I thought that was good. It's one of those things like this show doesn't need to include Avengers characters. I don't want them to. They don't need them. But like when they do, they use them sparingly, and it's to serve a purpose, right?
Right. They did in the original series, and that was to introduce the Avengers TV show the anime show that they were doing.
Yeah, even though it wasn't in the same universe.
It wasn't, but they did like for Spider-Man, like same thing for like Spider-Man and the Avengers and stuff like that. They kind of like that was like their episode to start off their new series.
It was also to get kids interested in these characters, so then they could then they would, regardless of whether they were like in continuity with each other or not. But the thing is, the first Avengers cartoon didn't have Cap, Iron Man, or Thor. It was run by Ant-Man. It was okay when I was a kid. Like I thought the costumes were cool, but it was definitely made to sell toys. It was very interesting lineup on that team. What was I getting at? I was getting at that Rogue is going crazy. She's threatening General Ross. She needs the answers she's looking for, and that takes her to is it Alaska? Is it Canada? Where Captain America is also looking for.
I believe it is Canada, because I feel like a lot of like happens in Canada because they're looking for Trask. That's who she's looking for, right? Is Trask?
She's looking for Trask. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then that's when we see the Shield come in, which I had a big oh shit moment, because I'm like sitting here watching this show, drinking my Captain America mug with my Rogue coffee, with my Rogue outfit, with my coffee mug that's Captain America, and I was like, did I just manifest this? Had no clue that Captain America was supposed to make a cameo.
If you're out there manifesting things, I have a whole list of things if you could manifest for me. If you do take requests.
I will. I'm going to make requests. So apparently it's happening, because I manifest Captain America coming for that episode.
Okay.
So
I'm going to give you my vision board and you just kind of work from there, you know?
sounds good.
Okay. We see Rogue meet Captain America, and this stuff we're not talking about in order, but we'll follow the threads. Rogue meets Captain America, and they go to this cabin where they go underground. Right? That's what it is. They like hit a button or something, and it takes them to an underground bunker.
Right.
Which is new to both of them because they're both trying to investigate what's going on, right? But in their own way.
Right. And that's when they stumble upon the layer of OTZ, and they're, Rogue's trying to figure out. Oh yeah,
Operation Zero Tolerance.
Whatever. I'm dyslexic, so we're just gonna go with. We're just gonna go with that. It started with O, and find their lair, and basically just seeing what the issue is. Yeah. Well, of course, Captain America at the beginning, he was like, what happened in Genosha is a human, like, we're all sad about it. And then by the time he gets from there, from the first introduction to inside there, he's like changed his mind, and he's like, well, no, we can't act on it. The Avengers can't do anything to help you, so we're not going to stand beside you. So it's just like, I feel like that's a shadow for maybe season 2 or 3 of X-Men versus Avengers.
Because that's the biggest problem for me personally. And like, okay, some people can chalk it up in the comics to like the Avengers writers are not the X-Men writers. Like the writers have always been different because they're different editorial teams. And so like that's why the X-Men and the Avengers don't cross over too much. They just kind of stay in their own corners of the Marvel universes. But when they do, it's always like the X-Men always have like literal mutant related tragedies, genocide, all that stuff, and the Avengers don't show up at all. But when there's a Marvel-wide problem, the X-Men show up.
Right. That's true. That is very true, and it's not. That's just Captain America being hypocrite again.
Yeah.
But also I kind of think that could have also been a problem for the longest time them being owned by 2 different companies, so they didn't want to cross over too much for that reason.
Wait, in the movies? Because in the comics they were always the same company, right?
Right, they are, but I meant like, yes, because they were owned from the different companies. They just try to branch them off and try to keep them apart just for.
Yeah, well, Marvel Comics, because Fox owned the X-Men movie rights, was just like, well, X-Men, X-Men's going to be separate, of course, and X-Men's going to be reduced. So, like, the past 15 years of X-Men content has been like, why are you wasting all this potential?
Right, and I think it's kind of for them just being petty of that sense of them not,
They were killing actual X-Men characters, like, left and right, because they were like, who cares,
Right.
Mr. Plow, shout out to Mr. Plow in the comments, long time no see. Mr. Plow was saying the forced interjection of the Inhumans. Yeah, we're not getting on an Inhumans tangent, but yes, Marvel started, repping the Inhumans at the expense of mutants. But let's talk about, like, the X-Men show up to Avengers things, Avengers don't show up to X-Men things, like Captain America. You're right. Like, in the beginning, he's always like, this is our problem. We're all in this together, a High School Musical, whatever.
So, this is funny. I did see someone on Threads point out, said Captain America at the beginning went from Black Lives Matter to All Lives Matter.
Exactly.
Real quick.
Exactly.
And it's so funny. And it's kind of like the truth of it. And that's why I think, like, the event, like what happened at the end when Rogue did the big moment.
I mean, yeah. This episode is it's spoilerific. Like, we're here to talk about
Okay. Whenever she kills Trask, I feel like that's going to lead to a reason for Cap and the Avengers to go against the X-Men. And then it's going to that issue there is going to be like, okay, well, Rogue's going to need to go on trial for war crimes. And then the X-Men will be like, hold up, no, she don't. And then it's going to start X-Men versus Avengers. That's what I think. What I think.
No, I mean, that's a great theory. I definitely think that there are ramifications that will come in season 2 to the fact that like the mutants, the point is like the mutants can't win. No matter
Right.
what they do, like they create their own country and they can't, like they get like obliterated in their own country by outside forces. Like the idea that like why can't just mutants follow human law, right? Like, well, because it's not made for them. And
Right.
so Captain America says,
Oh, that's too close to home. Go
yeah,
ahead.
Captain America,
Yeah.
Captain America says like, look, we can't invade Mexico, right? I'm wearing the American flag. I cannot go into Mexico. We cannot invade another country. Also, by the way, it's not really invading another country. It's going in to a guy who, like, it's not a country
Right.
versus country conflict, you know?
Right.
Shout out to Tim Possible 1, first time chatter. Anyone out there, like, comment, subscribe, follow, do your thing. Follow Mariah as well on social media. Show your support. But Tim Possible 1 says, what's up, everyone? Just binge watched the series this past weekend. I'm loving it. Rogue is hardcore, like Red Hood now. Lol. I don't think she's like Red Hood. I think that, but that's a separate thing. We're not getting into Batman talk. But Captain America says, like, we can't go into this. We got to do this by the book. And it just brought up something in my head. I was like, whose book? Who wrote the book?
Right.
You know, like,
that's funny because that's the exact same thing that Tony said to start Civil War. So that's why I think this is going to happen. X-Men versus Marvel, just because of that.
There's a scene in the comics. I don't know if you've seen it, but like I think it's Emma Frost talking to Tony, and she essentially says like, you want my support, you want mutant support, but where were you when our children were burning? You know, where were you when our buses were bombed, when our country died? Like, you want us to let's see, what did she say? I'm trying to look up the scene online, but like there's a whole thing where it's like, yeah, you want us to team up, you want us to like be allies, but where were you?
Right.
Where were the Avengers when Genosha died? Where were you when our babies were burning? Don't try to blackmail me with genocide. You want to really compare notes? Like, it's so good. And this is really like, people are a little bit upset that Captain America is being portrayed in this way, but like,
that's very much how Captain America was in the comics. I'm going ahead and say
Cap is different.
Yes, he is. And I will have to say it's mainly because of Chris Evans.
Yeah. And like Tony Stark is also different from the comics, right? Like,
right.
Like the Civil War.
Yeah.
I think it was, I don't know what it is. I think the MCU just made more nuance, like, you know?
Right.
Like, there were way more nuanced characters, I think.
Right. And which, how a lot of people see it is that seeing that side of Captain America, MCU Cap, what we know, I believe he would have went down to Mexico with Rogue.
Yeah.
And would have stood inside of them. But they are playing this different. This is a different universe.
This is 90s Cap, right? Like,
yes.
This is a different Cap.
Right. He wasn't in the obviously he was in there for a while, and the Frozen for a while, but this is a completely different Captain America that we're seeing. So yeah, I can see Captain America being like all about, like we said, he was all for this one image of him, and he's protecting his image, or the Avengers image. So but he has to protect his own too, because if you can see, if the Avengers stand beside, like Rogue said, if the Avengers stand beside the X-Men, then I feel like Cap is going to feel like everyone's going to hate them too. Like, they're just now on the good side of people. So it's kind of like, what it is, it's like, well, I'd rather for you to be, hated, and then us to be hated, because we don't want to be hated too. So we're on the good side. So it's kind of like, I
love thinking about like the internal politics of Avengers versus X-Men, but like I get, like, I love what you're saying. The Avengers could easily just say to the world, hey, the X-Men are cool, we're with them. And although I think they would want to, I don't think they trust the X-Men. because the X-Men do their own thing and have a different sense of like loyalty, right? Their
Right.
X-Men justice is different than Avengers justice. X-Men
Right.
justice sometimes is like, look, I know Mystique has like had a lot of crimes, but like she says she's cool now. Let's give her a shot.
Yeah.
And then Cap is
Right.
like, no, we still got to take her into jail, right? And the X-Men's
Right.
like, you got to get through us if you want to take her to jail.
So do you think now do you see my point of why they're going to go against each other and
Yeah.
try to put Rogue on trial? So
Yeah.
that makes perfect sense.
I mean, I definitely see like some ramifications there. Rogue, but also the Cap that I believe in, like the Cap of like maybe modern comics, because MCU Cap kind of influenced modern comics. He would take off the Captain America suit and he'd be like, Cap isn't allowed to go in, but I'm Steve. I'm Steve. You know,
Right.
and like he would show his support because Cap and Rogue have a good professional relationship in the comics right now. Like
right.
since Uncanny Avengers, like they both like co-led the team. Like they both respect each other. I think Cap would go to bat, but this is not the same Cap.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
Yeah. We see Rogue go to Henry Gyrick's place, and she brings up a good point. She's like, he's supposed to be detained, but this is like a mansion. Like, he seems like he's having a good time.
That's such an American move to do. Is put them in another country and let them live on a resort. That's what she said. It's like, this is a resort.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not. And he's still allowed to do his research that he's doing and his psychoticness about it. And we see her go in there and just, well, take everyone out once again. And Gyrick was like kind of taunting her. It's like, oh yeah, you won't do anything. You're the good guys. You're not gonna hurt me. You never have before. And it's like she's like, well, this is me now. Like you've already killed the good guys. Like
yeah,
you killed the people who were holding me back, like who were keeping me grounded.
Right.
And she takes.
What'd you say?
And she takes off that glove and she takes
the information. Yeah. And she takes some of his life, right? Like he's on life support, right? He's
kind of, yeah, I guess you could say that. It kind of like basically knocks him out. He put him in She put him in ICU.
Yeah.
He could have survived. At the end, we see who actually kills him.
Yeah.
Who finishes him off.
Yeah. Also, a little bit of symbolism is Gyrick seems to be obsessed with butterflies, which I think is like a species thing, right? Like like the butterflies are on display. They're pinned on the board. Each butterfly is like a different species, right? Like when you bug collect, you're doing that.
It is a callback to a movie, and it's like from one. I don't know which one. Yes, it is, and I don't know which one. And maybe someone in the comments can tell me, but I have seen that played out before, and like especially with like, I don't want to say the butterfly effect because that is something about dealing with time travel, but there is a movie reference with the butterflies being pinned up, and there's always some movie with a mad scientist and showing the butterflies throughout. So there is a movie reference to pop culture to that somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know. I know I've seen it before, but obviously the butterfly effect where it's like dealing with time travel and everything like that. But I don't think that's but I don't know if that's that symbolism, but it made me think of there's something. I have to do some research and find out the connection with the butterflies and what that reference was dealing with.
I mean, it could deal with two sorts of symbolism of a butterfly, which is time, right?
Right.
And it's also like a species related thing, right?
Right.
Like it could be that overlap of like this. I mean, this is where the X-Men are living right now. So it's like the
evolution and everything.
Plus this fascination with the killing and displaying of these different species, right?
These life forms, these lower life forms and everything, like collecting. There's a movie reference in there somewhere.
Yeah.
It's somewhere.
Mr. Plow is bringing up Island of Dr. Moreau, but I think that's a little bit different. That's more like High Evolutionary. It was more like Island of Dr. Moreau, but metamorphosis is something that Mr. Plow is saying, like caterpillar to butterfly.
That's a good one.
The genetic change of stuff. So something worth looking into. Gyrick ends up in a bed with the gas, air mask, oxygen mask, and
intubated.
Some random guy we don't know until we do comes in and he kills him. That was wild and dark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we see him come in, and it's like this mystery man, and it's like the guy who is pulling all the strings, and who everyone, which we find at the end, is
Bastion.
Bastion. I was saying Bastion, but I was like, I know that's not right.
Yeah.
Bastion. But before that, we do see them in Mexico, the X-Men coming to Rogue's aid and being by her side whenever she's having this breakdown of her realizing of her loss, which is another emotional scene for me watching and seeing Nightcrawler and Rogue's reaction reaction as like brother and sister, their interactions. And
sorry. We're gonna.
Oh no, I was just talking about how like that scene right there was just emotional for me, and I was crying, and I was like, "This is beautiful." Like just hearing like the voice actor Lenore Zahn just crying this, because I felt that like that emotion of loss and hurt.
Yeah. I just want to shout out that I didn't know this, but Bastion, although it is like just a English word, is also like that's his code name, right? His real name is Sebastian. Like
I can see,
his human name is Sebastian, which is then shortened to Bastion as the villain. He is an android. He I believe started off as human, or I don't know. Did he start off as human? Oh, no, he's not human at all. He was... I don't know. Anyway, he's a mysterious human, sentinel kind of thing. But I thought... We'll get to Bastion. Before this,
we'll see more of him next. Obviously, we'll see him in the finale. So I'm not familiar with him. So whenever I saw him, I was like, I kind of like how to do a double take. I was like, oh wait, this is dark. This is scary.
He's not my favorite X-Men villain, but he's there, and I think he's pretty cool in this. So I'm looking to see how they streamline him. But let's rewind a little bit, because we were following Rogue's story, but at the same time we have the X-Men story with Genosha, right? And after the funeral, the X-Men go to Genosha. Oh no! Before they do, Cyclops has a conversation with Senator Kelly, which I thought was kind of like,
oh yeah. I'm sorry, I always skip the Cyclops story, so let's backtrack.
You don't like Cyclops, or you just kind of
I'm just kind of over the love triangle with Jean and Cyclops, which I'm okay. I do like Cyclops in this animated series. I'm not saying that, but I am getting a little worn out with that story, and I just hope that this maybe will end it. Maybe they will just break up, and then I don't have to deal with it again. That's kind of like my thought process.
Yeah. Do you think Maddie's dead?
Yeah, I do. I think she is dead. Madeline.
I don't think she's dead.
I think she'll come back, and like when they reverse time and everything. But no, I think Cable knows that she had died. Like he went back to try to save her, and that's why he said, "I'm sorry, Mom. Like I couldn't save you this time." So he's going to go back and try. So I think she is dead right now.
That's so sad.
Yeah, I think she is. And then, because like that's why he came back in time to go save his mom. Like that was his mission, was to save his mom. And
I have a theory, by the way, for season 2. I have a theory.
Okay. What is it?
So my theory is, well, first things first, I didn't believe that Magneto was dead. And we'll talk about the end in a little bit. But I didn't believe he was dead. So the ending of this episode, I was like, okay, cool. So first things first, I didn't believe Magneto was dead, but I knew that Gambit was dead. I was like, Gambit's dead.
Right.
But I do believe he'll come back as a Horseman of Apocalypse.
Yeah.
I think that, like, Apocalypse, I think, now that I'm thinking about this, if I'm accepting that Maddie is dead, then I think she will come back. I think there are certain characters that can die and don't need to come back. I don't think Banshee needs to come back. Because, like, Banshee died. That Sentinel killed Banshee and Marrow.
Right.
Like, with one black, like, Banshee did not survive that. Like,
right.
You could argue if Marrow survived that, because Marrow has healing powers, but, like, Banshee did not survive that. So, right. But I think Maddie, there's more to her story that needs to be, like, there's a lot of potential for the character. Same with Gambit coming, you know? They won't stay dead.
Right. I don't think so. I think they, honestly, I'm going to be honest, I think they're all going to come back because dealing with Cable.
I don't think they're going to bring it back with time travel. Is that what you think? You think they...
Yeah.
Because I don't think we're getting a happy ending.
And not right now, but I do think we are going to... Oh, goodness.
I know we want it, right? I know we want it to have a happy ending. He goes back in time. He stops it, right? But I think the whole point of genocide in this narrative is that, like, you can't take it back.
Oh, no.
You know?
Oh, no. That was making me go through this season. Is getting me through these episodes. Like, oh, Cable's gonna fix it. It'd be fine. I can watch it. Cable's gonna fix everything. Oh my gosh, what if he doesn't?
Yeah.
No. Okay.
There's a couple of questions, but also I think Gambit will come back. I think Apocalypse will bring him back as a Horseman of the Apocalypse. I also think that if Maddie's gonna come back, I wouldn't be surprised if Maddie comes back as a Horseman of the Apocalypse. Like.
Oh, wow.
Telling new story. Maddie in the comics has never been a Horseman of the Apocalypse, but why? Like, they could tell new stories. Who also has been a Horseman of Apocalypse is Banshee. So there's an idea that, like, maybe he picks 4 mutants to bring back from the dead, and we get them as Horsemen. And so, but I don't think the whole genocide thing goes back. Yeah, I think that, like, certain characters will be killed off for good. And maybe if we're lucky, we get 4 people brought back as Horsemen. There's also a theory. There's an unknown character in the funeral scene in the beginning of the episode. That girl with black hair and white hair. She's like black and white hair. Nobody can identify her, as far as I know. I don't know if anyone online has.
So I've seen some theories back and forth, but I'm pretty sure it's his brother's. Like, she has a character in there, and that she's part of the
Assassin's Guild?
Yes. She is a part of the Assassin's Guild. And I'm almost positive, like, she is, like, with... It could be that. It's either that lady, because it wasn't... Or it's the one who was in Genosha with him in prison. It's either one of those two.
Uh-huh.
Or unless they're the same lady. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure who. That's what I've seen online. Is someone said that she was part of the guild. There's one character that could be that's part of the guild. Then there's.
I don't. Oh, sorry. What were you saying?
And then there was another theory of the lady who was trapped on Genosha with him.
It's possible. Yes. So lady, I'm looking it up. The lady who was trapped with him on Genosha in season 1 is Aurora from Alpha Flight, the Canadian team. And it's possible that could be her. We also don't see her ears. Aurora has elf-like ears. Same with her twin brother, or I think they're twins, is Northstar. He also has elfish ears. But we don't see her ears at the funeral. And, like, she has a lot of white in her hair to be Aurora. Like, I don't know.
Right. There is someone, you have to look that up, but she is part of the guild, and she does have black and white hair. And I just don't know what her name is.
I'm looking at different sites. I don't know whether anyone can say for sure.
Mm-hmm.
There is a theory which I think is wild.
Which one?
The
What do you
theory
think?
that is a future daughter of Gambit and Rogue that's gone back in time. It's a wild theory. It's a
That is
wild
a
theory.
wild
It's a
theory.
wild theory, but I don't know if that's something you wanna think about. What if it's a time traveler? You know? But why
Well,
that person's not hiding? Like you would hide,
right.
you would like be behind trees and like, oh,
Now, I'm right as of right now, I'm just gonna say that she's part of the Assassin Guild.
okay,
She's one of the ladies because there is a girl who's in the Assassin's Guild that looks a lot like her, and she's like with his brother. Like that's like his brother's wife or something like that.
mm-hmm.
So I just I don't think that's their daughter. Come on. That's
Okay. Somebody says, well, Mr. Plow is saying that there's a character named Singer who is part of the Assassin's Guild, but I don't think she's been shown in the cartoon before. But she does have black and white hair. But
okay.
why?
That
Why?
could just well, it could have just been like a nod to that. They just added a new character for maybe they just added her so that way we would be theorizing like we are right now.
Maybe. I don't think she's been in the cartoon yet, though. That's the thing.
No,
Like, why would they randomly put her?
I think, I mean, they randomly put themselves in it.
That's true. That's true.
So, what if we're all just like freaking out, thinking, like, who is this? And it's just one of the like animators.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's true.
So, we may be looking too much into it, but we'll see.
Okay. All right. So we get that. Then we get basically Cyclops talking to Senator Kelly, and I don't like the way Senator Kelly was talking. Senator Kelly was like, "We can't do anything. Nobody wants to help mutants. I can't do anything." And then Scott was like, "You're like essentially like you're supposed to be on my side," and he's like, "I am." But like, what are you gonna do? Like, if I leave, there's gonna be somebody who hates mutants, like someone who's worse to mutants than me. So it's almost like if the
Yeah.
devil, like the devil,
Advocate is
you know,
advocate like that. Like,
yeah,
it's kind of like foreshadowing of our election. It's like, do you take someone worse or someone worser
right.
kind
Like
of thing?
sometimes you don't have a choice, but
Right.
like Senator Kelly is the best they have in that situation, I guess.
Yeah.
Then the X-Men decide to they go to Genosha, and we see like the rubble. We see like people there. Jean goes to try to see if there are survivors, and we get some good dialogue, excuse me, and we find out that Emma is alive.
Yes. And that's who Jean, since, and then Scott was like, "Oh, it's Madeline. Like, oh, let's go get her." And then him crying over, which is crazy because he had a love triangle with Emma, and he's over here crying about
In the
Madeline, and
comics, yeah.
right. And then Emma's here, like he's a mess. He is a mess.
Yeah. Yeah. I it is cool to see that Emma's alive, and it is cool that like she has her diamond power, which is what she had at the beginning of Grant Morrison's X-Men run.
Right.
And for those of you who don't know, the final 3 episodes of this season is called Tolerance is Extinction. And that is something that Gyrick mentioned in the first episode, but also it's a combination of 2 big X-Men storylines, which is E is for Extinction and Operation Zero Tolerance.
Right.
And so, I don't know. It's so, like, we're getting a lot with this. We are eating,
Which they did say, the showrunner, he did mention to go back and do your homework and watch the episode of One Man's, hang on, we gotta find it.
Yeah.
It's the episode where Storm and Wolverine are married, and it's One Man's Worth. It's a
Yeah.
2-parter. And he did say you need to watch that episode before watching this week's episode.
Yeah.
One man.
He gave a list of episodes.
And in that, he did. Was it list? I know that was one of them. He said
Yeah.
you need to watch that, and it was a time. It's an alternate universe episode.
Yeah, because we're gonna see Bishop come back. I think we're seeing the future where Cable went to, and like,
Yes.
So One Man's Worth, part 1 and 2. This is to prep us for, I guess, tomorrow's episode, right?
Right.
One Man's Worth, part 1 and 2. Sanctuary, part 1 and 2. Descent, and The Final Decision. I don't know the plots of those episodes, but supposedly that's the reading list that we got to do.
Okay. I think I've seen them. I'm on the last season, so I have to double check and make sure. I don't look at titles of names. I just watch the episodes.
Supposedly The Final Decision is about Master Mold and the quest to replace human brains with computers. So maybe that's a Bastion thing. Sanctuary is about Asteroid M and Magneto's desire to find a permanent home for mutants, which is Genosha. Which also we see Amelia Voight, who turns into Mist. She used to be an acolyte of Magneto. We see her in this episode.
Well, she's also in that episode that is they told us to watch. So she is in that one. So
One Man's Worth is about Xavier and a future without him and how important he is to the mutant cause. So because we know Xavier's coming back. And then Descent is Mr. Sinister's origin.
Yes.
You know? And One Man's Worth has to do with time travel and stuff. So some people are saying maybe we get an Age of Apocalypse second season. You know, maybe they tried to mess with time in this, and that sets us up for season 2 that you can't mess with time. You get things that are worth. You know?
Yeah, we'll see, because I'm assuming what if it leads into messing with time, and then that's where it leads us with Deadpool.
You think this show's gonna tie in with Deadpool?
No, I'm not saying that, because, well, I don't think it's going to tie in with it, but I think we're definitely going to see these characters in like I would hope to see a lot of these characters, because we're going to see Deadpool go into different timelines.
Yeah.
So I do think this is going to be okay. It will have to tie in if Deadpool tries to make it into one sacred timeline. If they want to keep all the timelines separate, then no, I don't think so. But somehow they're going to have to tie it in. If they just want to have one sacred timeline and follow one
We're past the sacred timeline now. Like, there's multiple timelines now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So. But I don't know what they're doing with Deadpool. I don't know what they're trying to fix. Because it seems like they're trying to fix some timelines. And I'm just like, why would they do that if there's multiple ones? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah. Who knows?
So,
Deadpool is a whole other thing. But also Beast telling off Trish Tilby. He's just like, you don't understand. You're human. Like,
didn't they have a thing? Weren't they like?
Yeah, in the comics they dated, and then in that like whatever episode 3 or 4, whatever, when Beast is getting, interviewed, he's like blushing, right? Like, and so they kind of have a closeness, but this is him telling her off. Yeah, I don't know. Like, did she deserve it? I don't know. Like, does she deserve the disrespect? Maybe a little bit.
I think what it is in that time and moment, whenever you're seeing your own people being slaughtered and you are just tired, he's fed up, and he's tired. He's kind of like tired of the sympathy, like the saying, oh, I'm sorry, but yet you're not doing anything about it. Like, you're the cause of it. Like, she's a media talking about it and like not speaking up and doing anything. She's enabling it, and at that point that's kind of like he's just fed up with trying to always be the good guy, and he's just tired. He's like, so I get it. I feel it.
Yeah. Again, who wrote the book, right? Like, who, you can do it by the book, but who wrote the book? We get one scene before we get this final scene. So we get the one scene of Sunspot and Jubilee going to Sunspot's mom, and essentially coming out as a mutant, and essentially Sunspot's mom is like, that's cool that you're a mutant, and I'm glad that you're not alone with this. I'm glad that you have other mutants, but also to the public, you're not a mutant. We're not doing that. We're gonna keep up appearances, which is both good and bad, right? She's accepting her son, but also not accepting the way that the son can be himself in society.
Right. And I totally get that. That's such a POC mom. That is such like something a mom would do. But I do see her side, but also I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
But in the world that she lives in, like they're not going to accept her son being a mutant. And I do think that's very sad that she's choosing money over
money, society, right? I don't
right.
know whether she would say it's outright money.
Right.
But rather,
well, she's talked about the shareholders and that they would lose their profits and everything.
True.
So she is choosing that lifestyle and everything over technically her son. But in that sense, I mean, I understand what she's doing, but at the same time, I don't think it's right.
Yeah.
I would cut my losses and say, okay, this is my son. I'm going to protect him. This is what I'm going to do. But I mean, we're going to see more of that play out later, obviously. But in my mind, I think him, Sunspot, and Jubilee are super cute together. I do. Yeah. I think they're super cute.
Yeah.
But that whole storyline is like, I'm just like, nah, that's a typical. That was a little too close to home for me. So
yeah, I'm wondering if, and I'm not here to put like maybe one day I'll get to interview Beau DeMaio, but right. I can't say that this is his story, but like it just seems a lot like, if we're gonna use real life stuff, it's that they're a rich family of color, and the son is essentially coming out and saying he's gay. And the mother's like, I love you for who you are, and it seems very supportive. I love you. I've known you're gay, that sort of thing. Very supportive. And
but we can't tell the church. We can't tell people. Yeah, we can't tell people at home.
We can't let the community know, right? Like, we need to what are other people going to think? We can't have this. I love you. You're great being you, but also in the public eye, you're not.
Right.
And
it's something like I do. So my grandmother has passed, and it's something I wish I talked to her about. I never thought anything of it. Never thought of, because I grew up with two loving grandmothers who loved each other, and that's all I knew. Yeah. But now that I'm older, I do wish I talked to her about it, but then again, I don't think she would have talked to me about it, because she would have just like, right, I'm fine. But it is hard because she is African American. I'm African American, and growing up with not everyone in my family agreed with her lifestyle. Like now looking back on it, like I still had my great grandmother, her mother was still alive, and I knew that she loved her grandma. She loved everyone in the family, but I just saw how she would treat my bonus grandmother. And I don't want to say her name because I want to keep it all private, but she was extremely rude to her. Not only was it because of them being lesbians, but just that whole cultural difference there of being like just not accepting it. I've seen it firsthand of the African American community just not accepting their gay family members. They will literally, I've seen it, and I've seen it from both sides, but just from my point of view of seeing like what she went through and everything. But I never thought anything of it. I just didn't know like the reason why they didn't accept her was because she was a lesbian. I just thought it was, honestly, I just thought it was because of her. Yeah. I didn't even think anything of it. I didn't understand why until I'm older. Now I'm looking back now from an adult point of view. I was, oh, like I never thought any, like, I keep saying that, but I didn't realize that this is so silly. I didn't realize that she was lesbian until I was older and I could put a word to it.
Yeah.
Even though I had two grandmothers, I knew they were married and everything. And I was just like, oh, okay. Just never thought of it. Just never crossed my mind.
Yeah.
And here, and actually I got introduced to the X-Men watching Saturday morning cartoons, and this is like stuff like that I just didn't process until I was like showing my age now. But
No,
it's been
yeah.
like 30 years, and yeah, I've just had to look at it from a different point of view. So I totally see that side of Mateo's mom and everything like that. And that's
Yeah.
why I was like, okay, I can see the reference here.
Yeah.
And it's something that does need to be issued. And I'm not saying Mateo's mom is completely wrong. Like, I
Right.
want to see her side of the story too. So that's something I'm very interested in seeing play out in a very.
Yeah. I the amazing part about X-Men comics is that they're it's the realist fiction in
Mhm.
comics, right? Sure, this
Right.
is all fictional, but like they're real people in our world going
That
through the
correct.
same things that
Mhm.
mutants are going through, right?
And that's why everyone can relate to it because they can see themselves in it. Anyone who's ever felt on the outside, whether you were different in any way, it doesn't matter if your skin color, even if you like people who are nerds who like the X-Men and they think, oh, that's weird, they could relate to that. So it's
Yeah.
just like it doesn't matter. It's not obviously it's coded for being people of color and the LGBT communities too. It is coded that way, but it's something that's done like that everyone who's
Yeah.
ever felt on the outside can relate to.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of the X-Men and showing them in this light that we grew up with, and especially our generation of whether you watched it on Saturday morning cartoons or you watched the reruns in the 2000s, like they were part of our childhood.
Yeah.
And I did have a comment, like I remember I was doing on my TikTok, I did have someone reach out and he said, I'm not going to watch this series because I don't want politics in my X-Men. And then like people were attacked, like I never messaged him, but they were like defending me. And these guys were just like, well, then you're not an X-Men fan. Like
Yeah.
you're wanting X-Men not to be political. Like he's like, well, no, the OGs weren't like this. And it's like, dude, you didn't watch the OGs.
Yeah.
Like you like tell me you didn't watch the original X-Men because in the one episode that they wanted us to watch, and it's the other man was what was it, One Man's Worth.
Yeah.
This episode is about Storm and Logan being married in this alternate timeline, and they do a nod of a little bit of racism, and then like Logan and Rogue come from this timeline where that's not even a thing. Like they are like, this is stupid. Why would you even say that? And they went back in time to go save Charles, who was in the 60s. So, obviously segregation and everything like that is going on. So it kind of like, you can't say that it's not political because
Yeah.
that's what X-Men is.
It's yeah. I think people realize that like need to realize that like the things that they watch when they were a kid, like go back and watch it again as an adult with an adult brain. And then if you're
Right.
also still thinking that it's not political, then I mean, I guess you're just dumb. Like that's really what it is. Like I can give you one pass that like you watch X-Men as a kid and it just didn't get like
Right.
you didn't see it that way. I do think that's a very specific group of people that watched X-Men and didn't see it as political as a kid, because even I saw the things in X-Men, right?
Mhm.
I think there are certain types of people that
Right.
would not, because maybe they don't think outside themselves and think that
Right.
their experience is everybody's experience. But like go back and watch it as an adult, and then if you still think it's not political, then you're dumb. Like I mean that's
Right.
it. Like it's very arguably political.
Right.
And like seeing it through that lends itself like so much. Like I don't know, there's so much going on with this. Let's talk about this final scene, because I think that like some people thought that Rogue was being hysterical. Some people thought that like is it warranted? Is it not? But like in this final scene, they go to Madripoor, they find Trask, Rogue comes in to ask Trask what's next. Trask doesn't know, and she's like, okay, goodbye. Like, I don't have any use for you. And she, all intents and purposes, kills Trask. Trask supposedly is still alive. His mind is still alive in that Sentinel's body, but
we do see that scene where, like, first of all, everyone there could have saved him. I'm just going to ahead and say that.
I agree, but Beau DeMaio says that sometimes you're in shock and you think that you would do something in a certain situation that you can't do in that split second. Jean Grey could have, like, lifted him back, but they're all in shock. But
that she did that. Yeah.
I think there are characters that wouldn't have saved him. Right?
Like Logan.
Like Logan. Logan's like, she did what we wanted to do. Like, what are we gonna do? And he like puts his claws back in, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
But yes, we do see that, and we see him, which I am gonna have to say on the end, I was really scared that she might be dead. I hope that she's not. I hope that she's not, because seeing her body like lifeless, like basically, and then
I don't think she's dead.
Nightcrawler poofed. Okay. Yeah. Well, I do think, because someone said that there was supposed to be another character that died and not Gambit.
Oh.
And I think it's her. Like, Beau DeMaio said that someone else was supposed to die and it wasn't going to be Gambit, and they changed it to making it Gambit, and I think it was supposed to be her.
I mean, I think that somebody's going to die between now, like in the next 3 episodes.
Oh, yeah. I do. Oh, yeah. I think I'm going to give it 3 people. I think 3 people are going to die. Do
you have an idea of who?
I think Rogue's going to be one of them if she doesn't get her stuff together. Or it could. Or hold up, what if it's not Rogue and it's Nightcrawler, and then she's really going to lose it? So Nightcrawler could be one. And
I think Magneto. I think Magneto's going to die for real. Because Bastion is doing something to Magneto, right?
Right.
I think he's going to make him into a Sentinel or something and turn him against the X-Men. And in the end, Magneto rips himself apart.
You think it's going to be Morph again?
In what way? Oh, like kind of like more like Sinister made Morph into like his.
Yeah. There's something. Thing. Yeah, I think there's something going on there in his mind, and Sinister's going to use him as a weapon that he doesn't realize.
I don't think Morph's going to die again, but like I definitely see Magneto being turned evil, or like into a Sentinel essentially. But the idea that like Magneto gives up his life to take himself out.
Mm-hmm. What if
he doesn't want to be the weapon anymore, right? Like Magneto is the protector. When people were saying that Magneto's going to come back evil again, no, that's not the character growth we've seen.
Right. I don't think so. I do kind of think, I don't know, in my head, it was like, what if Jean died? And then that's when it gives us the storyline of Emma and Scott.
Maybe.
And then we see, like, if Jean died and Madeline's dead, and then that's when we see Scott go into the dark suit. Because I don't know, maybe I don't know. We see Scott going evil, basically. I don't know.
Cable
we'll see.
Could die?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Cable could die. Cable.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Listen, I'm holding on to the fact that he's going to go back in time. So that's what's going to happen. I don't think it's Cable.
Bishop could die. I have a theory, and it's not really a theory. It's more like, oh, they could write this in and make it bittersweet and super sad. And my idea is that Bishop raises Cable his whole life, and Bishop gets old and dies.
Can you see that?
Only
reason why I don't think Cable is going to die is because I'm pretty positive the voice actor has already kind of like said that he's in season 2.
Okay.
I have to double check that. I just lost my light.
The voice actor could come back as X-Man.
That's true.
Like X-Man being like a lab-grown clone, essentially a lab-grown brother sibling of Cable in a way. Like Cable, You know, X-Man.
I'm just holding on. Listen, I'm holding on that he's going to go back in time. And then
Anything
if
can
he does,
happen in the show.
I know anything could happen. And I'm excited to watch.
Yeah.
Well, I'm actually not excited to cry. 'Cause I know because Bo Demai said that this was going to be more heart-wrenching than
Yeah.
episode 5. So I'm gonna lay out my funeral bed now because you got someone call, check on me, DM me,
Yeah.
ask me, see if I'm okay for the next 3 episodes.
Yeah. As this episode like ends, we see Trask come back as a Sentinel. He says like these mutants are neutralized, but it doesn't mean they're dead. So I don't know why you say neutralized. It's just like, so you knock someone out. That don't impress me much.
Nice Shania Twain there.
Yeah.
I that's what I was thinking too, but they're just neutralized right now, so they're not really. Yeah. But he didn't say that after Rogue though, because I was like listening, so I was like, okay, he didn't say neutralized,
I
like
think he did.
neutral.
When he
No, I listened to it.
Oh, really?
He didn't say that to Rogue. He said it to everyone else, but he didn't say it after Rogue.
Okay. Interesting.
But a lot of things were happening though, because he was fighting everyone else. So, because it started, like, it cut to Cyclops attacking him and all this stuff. So,
Yeah.
maybe he just didn't have the time to say neutralize, but he said it after everyone else but Rogue, and that's when I was like theorizing. I was like, oh my God, please. I was like just freaking out in my head. Like, please don't let her be dead.
There's a lot that can happen in the next couple episodes, especially at the end. We see Bastion talking to Sinister. They know that Xavier is coming back. We also see Bastion having Magneto hostage, essentially, and shaving his face. And I feel like he's going to put him on display. I think he's going to turn him into a Sentinel, and he's shaving him so he looks like Magneto, so it's not like, it's just like, this is Magneto's evil again, but he's not. He's a Sentinel.
Well,
you know?
that's kind of like a nod there too. It's just like the delicacy of being like the shaving. Obviously, that's going to come into reference. I do agree with that. He's definitely going to put him on display. But the whole shaving, like, it's such a bad guy move because it's showing like the intimacy behind it.
It is really
and says
Ugh.
yes, and it's just like showing like, oh, I can like bear, like doing like the whole little Nick thing and saying like, so like, I'm holding this blade that can just slice your throat, but I'm choosing not to. So it's like, here I am acting like, so it's a very intimate thing that bad guys do.
It's also very interesting that they took out the one guy who could take down the Sentinels, right? With like as magnetic powers, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like Magneto put up a big fight against that Tri-Sentinel on Genosha. So the idea is that, you know, I think I don't know what to think. As we close up this episode, in summation, what are your hopes and dreams for the final 3 episodes?
Well, you already know I was hoping Cable was going to fix things, but I didn't.
For your sake, okay. You know?
But I do have a feeling, if anything, I also thought that if Gambit comes back, then Rogue was going to die. And it was kind of like a Romeo and Juliet type of thing.
Yeah.
And I really don't think that's going to, like, I hope it doesn't happen, but I'm just thinking of like the saddest thing that could happen for me. And I feel like that would be it. So I'm just like fully prepared for like them to like do a whole Romeo and Juliet. I know I'm gonna be crying. People are gonna die, and I'm gonna be very upset.
I need Storm to come back and let her rip, you know? Like, Storm's been out. Like, Storm's the one who can upset everything, you know?
And she's definitely going
piece.
to. Oh, goodness. Oh, my gosh. Oh, I'm already getting worked up over it. So I can't wait. Hopefully we can talk about it again soon.
Yeah.
Because I'm excited I'm just happy to talk about X-Men again.
Yeah. I want Forge to fight. I want to see Forge fight.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
You think he's gonna come in with on his horse?
I would love it if he had like a mechanical horse. Like, you know what I mean? Like, get him out, like, let him have guns, you know? Like,
I can see
let
that.
him throw. Oh, in the future, I think Forge is in the future with Bishop and stuff. Isn't there like an old version of Forge in the
Oh yeah,
future.
he's the one who creates the time.
The time travel?
Yes, he's the one who's creating it.
I think Forge could pop up again. I definitely think
Hmm.
that this
Oh yeah,
could be a thing.
we're gonna see him like create all the stuff and start all this, and he's the one who, like, whenever we see Days of Future Past, when we introduce the Bishop and everything like that, we see Forge is
Yeah.
the one who is, and he's with Logan,
Yeah.
and that's when Forge is like, and that's when um
Cable.
what's his name? Cable. No, no, hang on.
Bishop. Forge.
Bishop goes back in time. Thanks.
Okay.
No, Bishop goes back in time, and that's when we get Days of Future Past.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to the final 3 episodes. Mr. Plow says, will you guys do a X-Men 97 marathon before watching the finale? I will watch what Bo DeMaio pointed out. That is my pledge. I will watch the Bo DeMaio recommended.
Do you have a link? You should put that up there so that way people can find it. So
It's
like
on,
the record, or tell people where to find that.
yeah, let's see.
I will not. I mean, like, what do you mean? Like the whole not? Is it? Did they ask 97 binge watch? Then yes, I will binge watch all of them. But
All the episodes. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, I will do that for this season. But I'm already like going through the OG. So like I'm on the last season, season 5. So I will finish season 5 actually tomorrow. I only have like 4 episodes left of that season. So I'm already caught up. I'm not going to go back and rewatch them until maybe like this summer. Then I'll, like, when I don't have TV shows, then I'll watch them all through.
Yeah.
I still have to get my fiance, talk him into watching them because he's not into them. So I'm
You
gonna
gotta
have
you
to,
gotta make it an ultimatum. Like you gotta be
yeah,
like, look, you want to keep being my fiance?
right. You
Then
gotta like X-Men. Actually, I'd be really disappointed if he didn't like the X-Men. So I want to keep something to myself. So like,
okay.
what if he ruined it for me? Like that would
That's
be the worst.
that's true. That's true.
Like what if
Um,
he, like, I'd be devastated if I went through this and let him watch it, and then when we got to Gambit's death and he didn't cry, I might have to break off the engagement. Like if he
mm,
didn't cry over Gambit's death, like what the fuck am I doing?
um, yeah, that's true. Okay, so
Valid? I feel like that's
valid.
valid.
That's valid.
Okay.
Mr. Plow says that he's watched X-Men 97 episodes each once. But for me, I watch them multiple times to be able to talk about it for this show. So I feel like I'm not going to do a 97 marathon, but I am going to do the prep list that Bo DeMaio.
I am watch it once also. I'd be on, like, I am, but I did watch the first 3 with my friend because I was fortunate enough to go watch the I went to the premiere for the X-Men, so I got the first 3. So
Yeah.
I had to wait 3 weeks
Yeah.
to before watching
What comes next? Yeah.
what came next, so episode 4. So I did rewatch those. So,
Yeah.
and that was a long way. I actually did not like that. I was like, oh my gosh, I have to wait 4 weeks now instead of
Yeah.
waiting a week at a time because I got the
And
first
keeping
3.
secrets, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and keeping secrets, and it was a lot.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that I have you on this show to talk about this episode. I'm very excited for what comes next. 8, 9, and 10. Tolerance is extinction. This is a good time to be an X-Men fan. I love the fact that like you and I, we've loved X-Men for a long time. We're finally like getting more X-Men content, more merch, all that sort of thing.
I need more merch.
I was at Chicago. I was just in Chicago. I came back today for C2E2, and I bought some like X-Men prints because like that's the thing. There's not enough X-Men merch. But I'm getting like supporting artists, and their like prints of X-Men stuff, and I'm like, that's what I'm gonna put on the wall.
Well, hang on. I want to do a little plug for a company that I work for. I work for Heroes and Villains. So anyone who's watching, we did just release a X-Men line, which it keeps selling out. We brought back the jackets, the X-Men leather jackets. And if you use my discount code Mariah, MARIAHC, as in cat, so Mariah C, one word, and you get 20% off, and you can use that with the coupons that are already out, so you can double coupons.
Ooh, very nice. I
Yeah,
I was
so
looking at that jacket. I think you posted it today. That
yes, it's
jacket
in my
looks
store.
sick.
It is.
I
I'm
might
back ready.
uh
Yeah. Don't blame you. I'm back to like, do I want to use my discount code because you get 20% off and then whatever discount it is. But I do have a Star Wars version of that jacket,
uh-huh.
and I'm a little bit kicking myself in the butt right now for not, because it was sold out. I didn't
Yeah.
think they were going to come back for us. I was like, okay, I'll get the Ahsoka one.
Yeah.
And literally 2 days later, they said, oh yeah, X-Men's back. And I was like,
Well, there you go.
okay, gonna have to buy
Everybody
another
out there
one.
use code Mariah
All
C.
right.
Um
Now,
um
this is, and ladies, this is also Heroes and Villains. So
oh, the robe top.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a set. You can't see my pants.
Okay. It's like let's just do a fashion show for this episode.
Right.
Um Thank you, Mariah, so much for coming on the show and talking about X-Men 97,
Yes.
episode 7, X-Men 97, episode 7, Bright Eyes. Before we get going, where can people find you? What do you got coming up? Anything you want to plug?
Yes. Well, right now I don't really have much plugging right now. I'm getting ready to prep for Star Wars month, which is May. So, but I will still be doing my X-Men content over on TikTok. My name is Mariah Carley with 2 Y's on Instagram and on TikTok. And TikTok is where I do all my reactions. So if you guys want to see my reactions after every episode, go over there and check that out. It's a lot of fun, and we have conversations over there.
Awesome. Awesome.
Mhm.
For anyone out there who is watching and or listening, if you're watching us live, you are watching us on twitch.tv/The Keeg Show or youtube.com/The Keeg Show, or maybe you're listening to the podcast wherever you get your podcast from. We're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify, we're on iHeartRadio, we're now on Apple Music for podcasts, and then Audible, and then SoundCloud. And I think those are the big podcast stuff.
That's
it. I mean, it's a lot to keep
everywhere.
track of. It's
yes,
everywhere.
Everywhere.
Like, that's the thing. Got to get this podcast wherever people
listen.
You know,
wherever people listen
yeah.
to podcasts.
So wherever you're listening to podcasts, I'm sure we are there. We're also on TikTok and Instagram at The Keeg Show. We're also on Facebook and Threads and Twitter and all that at The Keeg Show / The Keeg Show, whatever one pertains to that social media. But TikTok and Instagram are our two biggest ones. We do a couple of different shows. We do the X-Men 97 after show, and they tend to be Monday nights. So, 6 days after the episodes air. But definitely stay tuned for the final 3 episodes of that. But we do the Keeg Talks most weekends. We do Comic Talk every Thursday night. And we do the X-Men, it's called State of X. It's our X-Men, our monthly X-Men show where we talk about comics, because the comics are going through a shakeup right now. So that's definitely a cool thing to be, jump on X-Men comics in like July when they kind of do the big new shift.
I need to catch up on that.
From the ashes.
I'll be watching to get some ideas because I need to know where to start.
In July, they're doing it's called From the Ashes. The Krakoan age is ending, so in July they're going to be starting some brand new series or restarting some series, and so that's going to be the jumping on point for the comics that I highly recommend. If you want to jump on X-Men comics, jump on with this new start in July. If you really want to be confused on the end of the Krakoan age, I guess you could pick up the next couple months of stuff because things are going down, and I'm invested. But if you want a brand new start, jump in July. But that's pretty much it. Thank you so much, Mariah, for coming on here and taking time out of your night to be here. Thank you to Mr. Plow out there. There was some other people out here. Tim Possible 1. Thank you so much. Thank you to anybody watching us on Twitch or YouTube. Once again, I am your host, Dimithri Perera, and this has been the X-Men 97 After Show for episode 7, Bright Eyes. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.